What's up, bosses? Welcome to About Her Business, the podcast where we leave all the gossip at the door and get straight down to business. I'm your host, Jonte, and today we have owner of Inspired Light Counseling, licensed professional counselor and Reiki master, Miss Becca Morris. Now, Miss Morris' mission is to help individuals connect with their higher self and purpose so they can start living from a place of alignment. And she's here today to help us raise our vibration on what she means business. So, ladies, grab those cups and those notepads and let's get down to it. The meeting is now in session. Welcome, Miss Morris.
Thank you, Jonte. I'm glad to be here.
Becca, welcome. I am so super excited. You guys, me and Becca, we have been communicating for about a month now. So I'm super excited to have her on today. Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready to get started. Let's go.
Perfect. So let's start off with what originally drew you to therapy initially. And how did that path evolve into your current practice?
So I always knew, like, when I was a little kid that I wanted to help people. I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I very quickly figured out the medical field was not going to work for me because I get very nauseated by the sight of blood. And when I was in high school, took a psychology class. That was the first time I was exposed to it. And I got really interested at that point. I love people, they fascinate me. I love understanding what's going on in people's heads, what makes them tick, how they work. And I ended up choosing counseling specifically because of the focus on wellness instead of just a diagnosis. So we're trained in diagnosing, but we also look at people as a whole person. We're looking at their strengths and how all that creates who they are. And so that's how I ended up with counseling specifically.
Awesome. And I just want to say, when you say it started for you as a young girl wanting to help people and you took a psychology class, I will let you that we had the direct opposite reaction to psychology class. That was the one class I absolutely hated taking in school. But now that I am in the field, basically, I now look back at that psychology class and go, if I had paid a lot more attention, I probably would have did a little bit better once I actually started in the mental health field.
I think also, like, I had the same experience that a lot of therapists have is that people just talk to me. So, like, you're in Walmart at some point, and now this person's entire life story. And that's kind of light that I have. People tend to just want to talk. And so it's almost like I feel like the universe kind of guided me into it more than me waking up one day and decided therapist is what I'm going to be.
Love that. So it was more so of just noticing how people were reacting to you just being your authentic self that originally just said, hey, let's go over here into this field. Because as you said, I was a person like that as well. I said, I cannot deal with blood. So it was like I had to figure out another way to help people. And I agree, you guys. Becca has a light that shines. I know for a fact that because I've told her a lot about my life and she just met me in person today, y'all. So it's aware when you just be in your authentic self, you can easily attract people.
For sure.
So what originally inspired you to explore Reiki and start blending it into your therapy sessions?
So Reiki really started as like my part of my personal transformation journey. So in 2018, I was like in the depths of grief. My partner had transitioned suddenly and unexpectedly. And I was really just looking for something that would give me any sense of relief. And Reiki was a part of what I found. And that helped me a lot shift energetically. So as a practitioner now, like I know that different emotions tend to get stuck different places in the body. Grief tends to get stuck around your lungs. So when you're grieving, you have a hard time breathing. And so when I started going to Reiki, that started to shift for me a little bit where I could breathe a little bit more easily. It didn't make the situation suck any less, but it helped me be able to navigate my life a little bit more easily. After about 6 months of that, I decided I wanted to be a practitioner, and so I took my first class, and then 6 months after that, took the next one, and then 6 months after that, took my 3rd level, and I'm actually getting ready to do my master teacher training a little bit later this month. But I also found that Reiki for me opened up a lot of my own spiritual gifts, so one of them being clairsentience, which is clear feeling, meaning I often feel other people's emotions as the energy in the energy form. I feel it in my own body. And that actually helps me as a therapist because when I'm talking to somebody, I feel your emotions and I feel what you're not processing. I feel where you have it stuck. And so I know how to guide you on when you need to stay still and you need to focus on that emotion because I'm watching and feeling it in my own body. It's almost like a virtual reality experience for me when I'm with a client and I'm locked in, it's like their field gets mirrored into mine. And when we disconnect and they leave, I don't feel it anymore. I'm back in my own energy in my own space. But it helps me as a therapist in that way. And so that's what made me want to blend it and offer integrated sessions where we do a combination of therapy and Reiki so that I can help them process it mentally, but then also clear it energetically as well.
Love that. And thank you for sharing with our audience on how Reiki inspired your life and how it helps others because I'm a person that picks up on energy as well. And I've been learning how to make sure those energies don't stay with me. So I really appreciate you saying the fact that you can still pick up on your client's energy while they're there, but you're able to not feel those energies once they leave. So that literally is a mastery level that I'm trying to get to. So thank you for hitting on that note. And you also hit on another great note. Grief can live in your breathing. That was another thing that I had absolutely no idea about. And it's starting to make a lot of sense when it comes to a lot of things. So thank you for hitting on all those topics, Becca.
Yeah, and just with grief, like, to me, like, energetically, it almost feels like molasses, and so, like, kind of the way I believe, like, every emotion has to be processed through your heart center, through that heart chakra, and that grief, it really gets stuck on the outside because it can be a very painful process, not just mentally and emotionally, but the energetic process of shifting that energy is really hard for people to do, and that's one thing that I think Reiki is really good at helping with, is shifting that energy so that people can breathe a little bit so they can feel a little bit better through a quite painful process.
Now, you did mention blended therapy, which is your Reiki and regular therapy sessions. What originally inspired you to start these types of therapy sessions?
I think a lot had to do with my own personal experiences and just the benefits that I found from Reiki. So, the way that I think about it, it's like therapy helps me kind of get into somebody's mind and into their psyche. There, we're really working on clearing out thoughts, belief, and forming new frameworks, especially at that subconscious level. And then Reiki helps me shift energetically the damage of the old beliefs. So, like, if I believe I'm not good enough and that I can tap that in your energy field and I can help clear the damage of it, that can release the old, while therapy helps me help you create a new framework so that you don't recreate that same old energy, if that makes sense.
It does. Now, I want to ask you because you did start offering blended services as we're talking about. What were some of the challenges originally when you first started doing this?
Honestly, one of the biggest challenges has been internally for me in terms of being afraid that I am going to be taken less seriously or less legitimately because I am a licensed professional counselor, but I'm also spiritual. I'm also woo woo. That's who I am, and putting those together has always kind of felt scary. So for ever since I've been a Reiki practitioner, I've always kept these parts of my identity very separate. So like my therapist friends know that I'm a therapist, my Reiki friends know that I'm a Reiki master. They might kind of know about the other identity, but not really know. So it has been scary to try to blend both and be openly both because I do believe in the power of both. I believe in traditional talk therapy, but I also believe that we are energetic beings having a temporary human experience. And if everything is energy, why would I not want to use that? Especially because to me, they just align very well. Like emotions are energy in motion. And if I only think of it as the feeling, then I'm missing out on deeper level information where I can actually pick up on it energetically. It gives me more information and that makes me more effective. So it's still something that I definitely have to navigate through. And I'm kind of accepting that if somebody doesn't find that legitimate, that's not my person to begin with. And that's okay.
I love that. And I'm a person who believes in spiritual practices and mental health as well as talk therapy. And I agree that it does. It takes a combination of both in order, in certain cases, to help a person reach their whole self. So I'm totally in agreement with that. And I've been afraid myself to, even in the classroom, to say, hey, let's go into talking about these more holistic practices and things that are going on none of my teachers were like, "Oh gosh, get out," or anything like that. They actually reaction was, "Wow, you're interested in advancing and actually getting out here helping." So I love the fact that you actually are courageous now because I am the person that's still fearful and still trusting my own abilities. So we love the fact that you're being honest with us right now, Becca.
Well, it is a work in progress, so I am glad to be taking another step and putting it out there and allowing both to be seen as beneficial because they are. They're all beneficial to us during our human experience, I think.
Now, I want to ask, how do you differentiate your practice in a market that has both traditional therapy and alternative healing methods, like we just discussed?
I think I just try to be clear about what I offer and the reasons that I integrate the two. Both are beneficial, I find for sure. And I think about it this way: therapy is the main course, and spirituality is a spice that we use in that dish. So it flavors the whole process. It's through a lot of like my therapy sessions. We might not be doing energy work the whole time, but we might be talking about things that pertain to different elements of spirituality. We might be talking about what's happening in your chakras and how that ties to the belief that you have about yourself. We might be talking about different emotions and where that's being held in your body. Or we're talking about what's happening astrologically, where the planets are placed and what energy my clients are feeling because of that. I have a lot of clients that are fairly sensitive to energy, but they may not always know what's happening in the world. And so they might think, oh, I'm just going crazy. And so when I can tell you, oh, well, Mercury is retrograding right now, this is why you're having difficult conversations with people or it doesn't seem clear. They're like, okay, that makes so much more sense. There's a sense of relief sometime when we talk about it because it makes the world make more sense, makes everything make more sense.
I've heard that Mercury retrograde term. A lot of people do affiliate that with it's in your mind, something's wrong with you. And it's a real thing out here, you guys. It has everything to do with your body, your spirit. So let's talk about systems, Becca. What systems or habits have you put in place to manage both the spiritual and the clinical aspects of your business effectively?
So, in terms of where the therapy piece, as far as the systems, it's the habits that I create. So, for me, it's always learning more, doing continuing education, not just because I have to, but learning about the types of therapy that interests me. So, I dedicate time each week to either whether I'm doing online trainings, whether I'm reading a book, or just practicing and developing my skills in that way. I also meet with other therapists. I stay in consultation with other business owners and that helps me, one, with the marketing and business part of therapy, but also the therapy part of therapy. And so I find that helpful to just have that community and have that connection. And then as far as the spiritual part, I have my own personal practices that I really use to help keep me grounded and aligned. So I have a meditation practice. I meditate typically every morning, and that's how I start my day. That's how I check in with myself. What's going on with me internally? What do I need to be aware of as I'm going through the day or as I'm working with clients? I also work with like my guide team, my spirit guides. And so I connect to them through meditation, and that helps guide my personal life, but also me professionally and how I show up for others. And then spiritually, I stay connected to community. And so part of the Reiki community I'm in, we do Reiki shares. So we all get together as practitioners and we practice on each other and share stories of what we're working on. So I think that helps kind of me stay grounded in that energy as well.
I love that. And you hit on a big aspect of working in this field, which is community. Takes a lot of getting out there networking, of course, to find clients, but also collaborate with other professionals in the field to just even be that sense of support because we all go through things. So I love your approaches because you need community in order to keep growing and keep going. In this field, we are lifelong learners. It's
Mhm.
never a moment where we say, "Hey, we have arrived." It's literally constantly growing and constantly building, constantly learning how to help. So it does take literally being a part of a community in order to do that.
Yes. And that I learned the hard way. I tried to do too much of this by myself for too long. And anybody in this world, you need support. We all need support, especially I think as women, we're designed to live in community with other women. And therapy kind of naturally lends to connecting with other women, as does Reiki, because the majority of therapists I know are female or identify as female. And the same for the majority of Reiki practitioners I'm acquainted with, they identify as female. I just think that's a very important part of our life experience. That's my opinion as women is for us to exist within community because
Right.
there's nothing more powerful than a group of women. There really just isn't. It's a whole unique energy all in it.
Yeah, I totally am in agreement with that because when you think about the women's rights movement and all the things that over the decades that have come along for women, it nearly took a group of women to do that. So we are definitely stronger together.
Yeah, and then I think it's, like, through community that I started to really see myself because I allowed myself to be seen by others and be held in a way that you don't get to experience when you hide who you are or you're masking. And I think as others witnessed me and I got to witness them, it really helped me step more into my authenticity and more stepped into my aligned self and who I actually want to be. So I think community is a big part of that for sure.
Now, let's switch over to another topic on services. How did you decide which services to offer and how to structure them in a way that's sustainable for your business?
So I started initially with therapy because I'm a therapist, and then eventually I added Reiki, and so I did sometimes I did back-to-back sessions, but kept them separate, and eventually decided to actually offer integrated sessions where I do about 45 minutes of the talk therapy and then 15 minutes of a Reiki chair Reiki session. I found that that's helpful for people that might not have experienced Reiki before, but are kind of curious. It kind of gives them like an introduction to it, and if they wanna book a full, like, table Reiki session, we can do that separately as well. But having the integrated sessions just makes it more manageable for me during the day because I might have a regular therapy session and then have an integrated section, and I can bounce back and forth that way, and then when I schedule full table Reiki sessions, keeping that separate kinda makes my day-to-day life a little bit more manageable.
Let's talk about those services. So when you talk about integrated, are we talking about the blended services and what states are you allowed to practice in?
Okay, so I am licensed in Georgia. So I am located in Augusta, Georgia. That's where my office is. So I see clients in person here and I do my Reiki sessions here. I also do online therapy for all of Georgia and the state of South Carolina. I can do online therapy as well. I do individual therapy with adults.
And as far as the Reiki go, can anybody from any state contact you or is that state certified as well?
Reiki is not restricted. It's just the therapy portion that's restricted to Georgia and South Carolina, but Reiki or any kind of spiritual coaching is not restricted by the states. No.
And thank you for sharing that with our audience. So, you guys, if you're looking for that Reiki experience, please contact Ms. Morris because I'm telling y'all, she's giving us some great tips right now. Now, let's talk about how you have explored ways to scale your offerings in one-on-one sessions. Like, have you created any workshops or courses or digital content? How have you been able to scale your business?
So that is where I'm working on right now. My idea is that I would actually like to create a program that's focused more on like the spiritual piece. So it would be connecting with your intuition through predominantly that clear sentience, the clear feeling, which is connecting with your body so that you're actually feeling when intuition comes through, because intuition has a physical signature, an energetic signature that you can feel in your body if you're paying attention to it. But most people can't distinguish intuition from anxiety, and so that's a lot what I would wanna focus on in the program, is how to tease apart what the energetic signatures of each emotion is, but also working a lot on the relationship with the self and how to push past that self-doubt. That's normal, it's part of our nervous system's reaction and questioning the world around us, but being able to really connect with who you really are on the inside without all your protective pieces blocking that. So really essentially asking your pain to step aside so that you can connect with what I would call the higher self. So the part of your soul that's exists in a higher form of consciousness, being able to connect with that so that you can live in alignment and complete whatever task you are meant to complete while you're here on this planet.
Oh, I love that, and just you giving the description of it, I'm ready to buy the course now. So, it's definitely that we constantly talk about anxiety all the time. To literally be able to relate it back to spirituality, I think that's a whole 'nother level of consciousness that a lot of people are ready for, and we can't wait till you release it, Belka.
Well, I'm really hoping to do it. And so One thing about anxiety to me as a therapist, I always think about anxiety as a disconnect from the self. And so that's part of what I would be helping with in that program is helping that reconnection. Because when you reconnect with who you really are, that's when your spiritual gifts are going to come through. That's when your intuition is going to come through. And then that's when you're stepping into the world confidently believing you're capable. And I feel like the world needs more people that are really in their self, connected to their higher self energy for sure.
And I will ask, are you gonna be gearing this towards helping clients, professionals, or is it gonna be like a combination of both?
It could be a combination of both. So it would probably be open to anybody, not just within the states that I'm licensed, because it wouldn't actually be therapy. I do also secretly want to help other therapists or other new business owners because what I have found is when I started my own business is I had to face a lot of my own insecurities and do a whole lot of shadow work that I thought I had already done. And I would love to walk other new business owners, no matter really what the discipline is, through that process. So that could be potentially a workshop coming up at some point. So I have ideas. I've just got to figure it out how to make it all work.
And y'all, I'm gonna be keeping in touch with Becca, so don't worry. I'm gonna have all that information just as soon as she releases the course and the workshop. I will be making sure it's posted on About Her Business. So you guys make sure you're subscribed to stay tuned to Miss Morris and all of her upcoming events and products. Now, how do you communicate the value of energy work and spiritual practices to clients who may say be more skeptical?
So in general, I don't think that I have to sell this. If this is really just not what you're interested in, cool. There's other therapists that don't do it this way. I also tend to attract people that are already interested or curious. Those tend to be the people that reach out to me. But even people that are interested in spirituality or working with their intuition or energy, they still have anxiety and they still doubt the information that they get at times. So a lot of times that's kind of where we start in the therapy process is exploring the doubt itself. And we start to look at that as a part of who you are and it often coming from the survival part of your brain that is has been trained to only use the five senses. And a lot of times intuition does not make sense to the logical mind. And so we learn how to work with both things at the same time. Anxiety can be there, and you can experience anxiety and allow it to be there, but still maintain a connection to your higher self and to your intuition. So it's really going through the doubt. And it's a normal part of the process. And that's how I view it. So it's not actually a problem. We just get curious about it. Curiosity drives a lot of the whole process.
Again, you hit on another key point, just being open and letting them know a lot about the process because I think that's a lot of where the stigmas come from in this field is because a lot of people don't have the resources or have anybody that's willing to say, "Hey, this is what it looks like." So I thank you for hitting on that keynote of just being honest and being open with your clients about what the process actually looks like, because that does create that therapeutic relationship with your clients and build trust and what keeps them coming back.
Right. And it's like there's so much power in just people realizing like, oh, this is normal. Cool. If my brain believes that it's normal and that there's nothing wrong, it stops trying to solve a problem because it realizes there isn't a problem. And then it continues on with the rest of its life instead of where anxiety, if you believe it's a problem and you allow yourself to get stuck in it, you have a problem. But as soon as you understand it's normal, your brain lets it go. And then you get to live your life the way you want to.
And that's easier said than done, y'all, but that's literally what happens. So you get to live from a place of freedom in a way, releasing yourself from all those negative energies and all those negative thoughts. You finally get to live from a place of where you start to believe in yourself, you build that confidence, you're hitting those goals, and you don't feel like you're running a marathon at the same time.
Yes, for sure.
So let's talk about what trends, because there are a lot of trends when it comes to mental health or psychology or diagnosis or anything. So, what trends have you noticed in how clients are seeking support for emotional and energetic well being?
So I think these days, like clients are oftentimes looking for something a little bit deeper than just traditional talk therapy. I noticed that a lot of people right now are pretty disheartened about the state of the world, specifically the state of the country that we live in. I feel like more people are starting to recognize that our political leaders may not always have our best interests in mind. And as that seems to be awakening in more people, there is this state of hopelessness. And so they're looking deeper at the why. Why is there so much suffering in the world? Why am I suffering personally? And as they're asking these why questions, they're digging deeper into their own inner world. And as we dig deeper there, it naturally starts to connect with the spiritual realm because it's hard to make meaning of suffering on this plane of existence unless I can get out of myself and view it from a different perspective. And I think that process is starting to help people connect to who they really are at a deeper level, to understand more about maybe why they chose to incarnate at this particular time, and to also realize that they did choose to incarnate. It didn't just happen. I know a lot of people say, well, I didn't choose to be more. On some level, my belief would be that you kind of did. And then being able to connect with that can give your life more meaning because now you understand why you're here. And then you understand what you're supposed to be learning, what you're supposed to be doing. So I think that clients are craving a deeper level meaning to life in general. I think also they're more interested in body type practices like somatic type therapies, which I'm actually getting trained on in 2 weeks, which I'm really excited about too. And just connecting more to the energy of what's deeper than the physical reality, I guess. Seeing more than that is what
So
I'm.
I can agree with that. And you kind of called me out a little bit. I did. I started to give up on the world at one point, and it was where I said, no, that's not right. Something's wrong. And so I ended up going to therapy, and it led me to my sense of purpose and helping others. So I totally have seen that trend. I have been that trend. So you definitely hit on the bill.
Not on purpose, but
But it's okay. It's okay because this is literally how we break stigmas. We have to have these hard conversations. And if it does call one person out in the room and that person, we should create safe spaces to where that person won't feel offended. They will feel encouraged to tell their story. And that's exactly what you just did.
good. I will.
So how has your understanding of astrology, because you work with astrology and we've been talking about chakras throughout the entire episode today. So how has your understanding of astrology and chakras or any other spiritual modalities influenced your approach to helping clients?
So starting with astrology, so not talking about the daily horoscopes, but when we're thinking of astrology and the signs, I think of them as an archetype. And so if I am looking at your birthday, I do know what your sign is before you come into my room because it gives me information about your personality without you having to tell me. It helps me just kind of understand probably what makes you tick a little bit more. Really, it just gives me more information to help you at a deeper level. And so at some point, I actually looked at my caseload just to see, are there certain signs that are more likely to end up in my therapy space? And 25% of my caseload was Scorpio, and 25% of my caseload was Virgo. So half my caseload was one of these two signs, both of which made sense to me. So, like, Scorpio tends to be very deep. Sometimes they're misunderstood because they've vibrated a different frequency, but they like mysterious, dark type things. So it makes sense that they would be drawn to exploring their own psyche. And Virgo, which I know a little bit more intimately, my moon is placed in Virgo. Virgo tends to be perfectionists. They tend to be overthinkers. They tend to be very critical of the self. So it also makes sense that they would show up in therapy wanting to improve and to grow. But just kind of understanding that gives me a little bit more information before I start working with you. And then chakras, that's part of the energy field. So it just kind of helps me understand probably where blockages are going to be showing up, especially working with a lot of women. I know that there's two main chakras that we're probably going to have problems with. So that's something I'm filtering through in the beginning. Do we have problems here? So, like the solar plexus chakra that's located at the diaphragm, that's our power center. And for a lot of women, they are afraid of their own power. And so when I'm working on people energetically, I often find that they don't or trap their own power within them instead of being visible in the world as they really are. So that's something that we can work on, one energetically in terms of Reiki, but then also in therapy, changing the beliefs, starting to feel more comfortable. I do think having community really helps with being able to be visible in that way or feeling safe to be visible as you really are. And I think all women deserve that opportunity to be seen as who they are and accepted by the world. Is that the reality? No, but we are all deserving of that. And sometimes women don't realize that. And so that's definitely something I like to be helping with. And then also the throat chakra. tends to be blocked for a lot of women because we're not speaking our truth. A lot of that is fear based. We're afraid to show up as who we really are because we're afraid of being judged or abandoned or rejected for who we are. But that helps me kind of understand where we're starting from, or at least it gives me information to filter through to see, is this an area that we're going to need to work in session?
Once again, you call me out, not intentionally because I'm a Scorpio. We Scorpios, not all of us are out here seeking revenge. Some of us are actually seeking the help to grow out here.
Like Scorpio has a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of intrigue and they can be mysterious for people, but they see the world very differently and they often go to a level that not every sign is able to do.
And I just said a little bit about myself. I really single-handedly still in my mind, and it's a constantly everyday process of realizing it takes a team. Think that I'm going to literally shift the entire mental health field by myself. So it's literally where I had to get into a place, and therapy helped me with that, of seeing things piece by piece, not literally trying to take it as a whole piece and then being offended later and now want to take out your revenge on everybody because you couldn't take that whole piece, but there are steps to get to that whole piece. So you hit dead on it. Yeah, with Scorpio.
I like working with Scorpios. It's interesting.
Yeah, we would definitely are. And I tell people a lot of times that mysteriousness when it comes to a Scorpio is fear or just constant observance of everything around you and thinking that everything around you, something's wrong with it. So it just depends on which Scorpio type you're dealing with. But for me, mine is more observance. So I definitely view the world in a different way. But you hit dead on Scorpio. So I just want to validate the Scorpio, you hit on it.
But that's a good point. That every sign has sun and shadow. So, as a therapist, I'm often going to see the shadow, especially like Virgo can also be very nurturing and caring type people. But in my therapy room, I'm seeing Virgo as the overthinking perfectionist that kind of doesn't really like themselves and might have a lot of self loathing that we've got to work through because of the self judgment. Like Virgos get a reputation for being judgmental of others, doesn't even like hold a stick to how they judge themselves. And that's a lot of what we work on. But that's how I like to incorporate it because it gives me the archetype. Now I know where I'm starting from.
Wow. And again, y'all, I can sit here and talk astrology and chakras all day with Miss Morris, but for the purpose of today's episode, we're going to move on to our next question. So, what's a moment or a story from your practice that affirmed to you the impact of blending your sessions with Reiki?
I really think it has a lot to do with witnessing my clients connect with their own spiritual gifts and helping them really connect with themselves and start to feel things like energetically. Because as they do that, they catch their own thoughts and feelings quicker. They realize when anxiety comes in because they have attuned themselves to paying attention to what that feels like. And it also helps them learn to observe that process instead of being in the anxiety. So it's really connecting with their own spirituality. And I definitely have clients that have more developed gifts than I do. And being able to witness that growing process to me it invalidates why I do what I do because I get to see other people grow, and that's therapy in general, but even especially seeing them feeling safe enough to explore spirituality and connect with their own guides and use that information to help with their own lives. It's been really rewarding, honestly.
Just helping a person feel confident within themselves, it makes you feel good. As a student, it made me feel good just to see people connect with themselves and start to believe in themselves. And I wasn't doing any type of spiritual practices. So I can only imagine the effects of using Reiki and seeing people actually connect with their gifts and actually start to believe in them. Because as you said, and I've said throughout today's episode, you do sometimes be fearful of putting yourself out there and believing in yourself and believing in the gifts that you've been exposed to. So thank you for sharing with our audience on that one. Now, let's talk about how do your personal rituals like meditation and energy grids inform the way you lead your business and serve clients?
So again, like my personal practices really are about keeping myself grounded, keeping myself in alignment, and making sure that I'm showing up in the world as the version of me that I really want to be and that I'm also meant to be. So Meditation, that's how I start my day. That's what really helps me focus and be centered. I also do different practices where I'm aligning my energy with the moon. So I do certain things around the full moon. I do certain things around the new moon. There's other energy dates like the equinoxes and solstices where nature is naturally shifting. And so I'll have rituals that I do when we shift with each season. And what I find, like as far as my personal manifestations, when you're aligning with nature, it goes a lot easier because you're feeding your energy into the bigger energy instead of doing things differently. So, like winter is a time that we're naturally sitting still and reflecting and doing more inner solitude type work. So, if you're trying to plant a bunch of seeds, winter is not the time to do that. And so, I allow nature to kind of inform how I live my life because I think that's ancestrally how most of our people did is connecting with nature using what was happening in the world to dictate how they lived instead of us trying to dictate nature, which is what I feel like our current society does, where we're trying to control time or when people are working instead of just allowing the sun and the moon to dictate it. I use like crystal grids at times to anchor in intentions. And ritual in general, I think, is to tap into the subconscious. So we use different colors, we use different stones and symbols because it helps change us at a subconscious level. So the subconscious doesn't speak words, it speaks in images, pictures, and symbols. And so as we use those things intentionally, we're signaling information to our subconscious about how to behave in the world. And that's also something that I use as a therapist. So with clients, I'm often asking them to create images or symbols for different beliefs or things that we are trying to intentionally shift because the subconscious is not going to believe you when you say, I'm good enough. We have to get in there in a different way. And so that's where we use imagery for certain things. But rituals can do the same thing as well, using the symbols and images and pictures.
And again, Ms. Morris, thank you for sharing that with our audience because you hit on a lot of great topics. But guys, our episode is slowly but surely coming to an end, and we have a couple of more questions for Becca. So I want to get your advice for our women entrepreneurs out there who may want to start integrating spirituality in their professional business. How should they do that?
So I think in general, no matter what kind of business you're starting, get a mentor, get friends in business. Being a solopreneur, especially, can be lonely. Like I said, I tried to do too much of it on my own without the community support. And I feel like things have moved a lot quicker since I have allowed myself to connect with other people. And then I know it sounds simplistic to say just do it in terms of incorporating the spirituality, but the world needs more women in business. I think it needs more women that are open spiritually. And I think that said, expect that you're going to be doing shadow work, expect that your own insecurities are going to come up. You might want to work with your own therapist as part of that process. That's separate from what you have to learn to run your own business, but dealing with your own inner world, that's another part of this that I did not know was going to be a part of it. Like I expected to learn how to market, I expected to learn how to do manage a business. I did not expect to be dealing with my own stuff again. But it's an opportunity to heal at a much deeper level than most people will ever get the opportunity to do. So be prepared to do it, but still do it. And then I guess the other thing too is just whatever fears you have internally, expect that that is going to be mirrored back to you externally. So, one of my hesitations and fears about blending therapy and Reiki is that I'm going to be taken less legitimately or less seriously. What feedback do I get from people at times? Exactly that. As long as that fear is active in me, I'm going to hear people say things like, you probably shouldn't put Reiki out there as much. You should probably keep that separate. You should probably hide it. As soon as people stop saying that, I'm going to know I have made the internal shift. So you can use other people as your mirrors to know where you need to do your work through the process of starting and running your own business.
Oh, I love that. And again, you use that keyword mirror, which is a lot of times we don't like to look in the mirror, especially when it's reflecting something negative back to us. So your energy, you have to just stay in a positive mindset. For me, I can give an example as well. I originally started my other podcast. I said I was not gonna get any guests. Sure enough, did not get any guests. Mindset shift is starting my podcast about her business. I literally said, I'm going to get women entrepreneurs from every single industry. And I kid you not, I have interview pretty much every industry there is, or I'm about to interview every industry there is. So it literally is a mindset shift. It's literally a alignment thing. It's literally getting to know yourself and start believing in yourself because honestly and truly, if you keep seeking that external validation from others, you're probably going to end up becoming them versus yourself. And I've learned the hard way, you guys.
As most Scorpios have to do. Learning
It's
the
That's another Scorpio thing, y'all. We like take the hard route. I don't know why, but we do.
Well, I'm glad that you did it, but and that you see the power of that shift. It's really cool when that happens. Is your mindset makes such a difference, so much more of a difference than most of us realize on the day to day.
Now, sadly, you guys, today's episode has come to an end, and we always leave with a legacy. And I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about this, Becca. Looking ahead, what kind of legacy do you hope your practice leaves on the world and the people you serve?
One thing about that, like, I love that you asked this question of women because I feel like legacy, when that word gets spoken, most of the time it's thought about with men and the legacy they want to live. And so I think it's very important that you're asking women after women, what legacy do we want to live? And so for me, I think about it in terms of impact. What impact do I want to make on the world during my time that I am incarnated on this planet? And my main thing is I want to help women, especially live their lives from a place of alignment because that's where their power is and that they can show up believing that they are worthy and live the life they want to with confidence, but believing that they're capable and trusting themselves. Because I see so many women that do not trust themselves. And like, especially in my therapy room, clients are saying, like, I'm worried that XYZ is going to happen. But what they're really saying is, I'm worried that I won't be able to handle XYZ. And I want to help as many women as possible know that they can handle XYZ, that they have their own back no matter what happens externally. So that is the impact, that is the legacy that I want to leave
I
through professional work and personally.
Oh, I absolutely love that legacy. Sadly, guys, today's episode has come to an end. But before we go, we're going to make sure we get all of Becca's information. How can you sign up for Inspired Light Counseling? How let us know if you're having events coming up. How we can follow you on socials. Let us know all the details.
So if you're looking for therapy and you are in Georgia or South Carolina, you can find me at inspiredlightcounseling.com. If you're not in one of those states, but you still want to connect, you can actually get onto my newsletter list. I have a weekly newsletter that's going to be more like spiritual intuition, energy type things. You can get on my list by taking my intuition quiz at Becca-/quiz, or you can connect with me on social. I'm on TikTok at Becca Morris Coach or on Instagram at Becca Morris Coaching. And my quiz is linked on both of those socials as well.
And we will be leaving all that information down in the description box below. Any last words before we adjourn today's meeting, Ms. Morris?
I don't, but I thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to hearing other women on your podcast for sure.
And thank you so much for being here, Becca. Thanks again to licensed professional counselor and Reiki master, Becca Morris, and Inspired Light Counseling for coming on and sharing all of her insights. And you be sure to subscribe to About Her Business wherever you see your podcast so you never miss whenever we upload. Also, leave me some comments down in that comment section on which industry you think I should interview next. Until next time, keep your goals tight, those circles tighter, and that bank account growing.